A change to the Vince McMahon lawsuit, WWE fans change WWE plans, my review of AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, and more. I'm Luke Owen and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Get exclusive videos over on our Patreon.
We are just over 1 week away from WWE's next pay-per-view, Bad Blood, which will see Triple H continue his tribute to 1997 by having a Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. This had been the reported plan for some time, and the near year-long feud certainly felt like a Hell in a Cell match was the only way it could end. But speaking of endings, there has been some debate over what the ending of the pay-per-view will be, because Punk and McIntyre isn't the only big-time match taking place at Bad Blood, as Roman Reigns is set to team with his WrestleMania main event dance partner Cody Rhodes to take on the bloodline of Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. Fightful Select reported that as of the filming of the Rhodes and Reigns vignette that aired on SmackDown, that tag match was the planned main event of Bad Blood. Dave Meltzer added that while Punk and McIntyre was also at one point in discussion to be the main event as a tribute to 1997's Bad Blood and the first Hell in a Cell, which was officially declared the best Hell in a Cell match by last week's Gripe Bombs, there were those who felt that Roman and Cody teaming together for the first time and their connections to the Atlanta area means they should close the pay-per-view. CM Punk having his pay-per-view main event taken away by someone from the Anoa'i family? Some things never change, but change they might, as these reports caught the ire of fans who felt that Punk and Drew should be the main event of the show given how good the feud has been. PW Insider add in their report the final decision has not been made on which match will close the show, and Fightful Select add WWE has taken online reception into consideration on which match will take the top slot. This ties into a previous report that Triple H, who claims that he is never online, monitors online conversation about WWE and his booking decisions and makes changes accordingly. Speaking of online reactions and opinions are flying on social media about Netflix's docuseries Mr. McMahon, which was once upon a time a joint venture between WWE and the streaming platform, but became something very different once sexual assault, sex trafficking, and hush money allegations about Vince McMahon became public. Prior to the series being released, Vince McMahon did some rarely seen tweeting denouncing the series for misrepresenting him, and that might have come from a new change in the story of the lawsuit filed against him, John Laurinaitis, and WWE by Janelle Grant. The day after the tweet, Post Wrestling and WrestleNomics reported that Vince had parted ways with the PR firm that he'd hired following the lawsuit, and Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer reported that he replaced them with new representatives in Edendale Strategies, which has since been backed up by Post Wrestling and WrestleNomics. Edendale Strategies market themselves as communications counsel and crisis management specialist, with their goal being to hone and convey their messaging effectively, especially in high-stakes situations where there is little to no margin for error. According to their website, their clients include Fortune 100 companies, major civic institutions, and prominent charities, as well as legendary sports franchises, high net worth individuals, and some of the most famous actors, directors, writers, and musicians. Dave Meltzer reports sources close to the situation said McMahon made the switch because he believed the new company was more up to date with the modern media landscape, notably having a better understanding of the digital and online modern reporting landscape. And if you've now had the chance to catch up on the whole Mr. McMahon series on Netflix, Ollie Davis has looked at the 10 most shocking revelations from the show. Here's a clip.
The Mr. McMahon character. Vince revealed he based his Mr. McMahon persona on his favourite wrestler as a kid, Dr. Jerry Graham. Graham was a flamboyant big heel with bleached blonde hair. Teenage Vince dyed his hair to look like him and even copied his strut. Graham took Vince under his wing and one day took him for a joyride, speeding through red lights at intersections. Vince reminisced, "This is grand. Man, I want to live my life like this," i.e. a life without traffic regulations. He took the walk and swagger from Dr. Graham, but the rest, he says, came from the rich people he hated when he was growing up dirt poor. He knew how to get into character because he knew all the things he disliked. But then he contradicts himself again, saying he was so good at a lot of the character traits like cheating, not fighting fair, how to just be an arrogant person that throws his weight around and is a bully, because those were his traits.
But now it's time for my review of AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, aka the RIP FTW edition of AEW Dynamite Grand Slam. in about 5 minutes. The show opened with one of the most anticipated matches for those who love a certain era of Ring of Honor, Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. Nigel's return to the ring at All In, for me, was an out-of-body experience. For the weeks leading up to the event and all over All In weekend, we speculated on names that could be in the Casino Gauntlet. Bobby Lashley, Ricochet, Jay White, Adam Cole, Michael Oku, all of which seemed like they would be lovely surprises. But one that never crossed my mind was Nigel McGuinness. One of my all-time favorite guys, one of my all-time favorite characters, one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. I screamed so hard when he came out, I nearly threw up and I lost my voice for the next few matches. And there he was, in a wrestling ring in Wembley Stadium. And I thought that was it. A nice fun cameo. Never did I think that just 3 weeks later, he'd be in the ring with Bryan Danielson having an awesome match. And despite not having a match for a decade plus, it didn't feel like Nigel had missed a step from being Nigel McGuinness. Or even Desmond Wolfe. The problem for me, and I think a few others, is that it was a bit clunky getting here. Bryan Danielson was supposed to face Darby Allin for the title on Grand Slam, but Darby put that title shot on the line against Jon Moxley at Grand Slam because it was unclear if Danielson would wrestle on Grand Slam. But then on the same episode of Dynamite, Nigel announced he would be facing Danielson at Grand Slam, and sure enough, here he is wrestling Bryan Danielson at Grand Slam. So while the final countdown reveal was cool, because it will always be cool, no one really believed that Danielson wasn't gonna show up. And I think that hurt some of the crowd heat for the match, which never really kicked into the gear the match deserved. The two worked really well and told a great story, but the crowd gave a half-hearted "this is awesome" chant as they went to the finish. While the in-ring work certainly felt like they'd reached the climax of the match, this New York crowd had not. Bryan tapped out McGuinness with the lapel lock. I hope this is not the end for McGuinness in the ring, but if it is, I'm glad he got to do it with Bryan Danielson. Let's just hope WWE don't copyright strike that one, eh? Christian Cage teased cashing in his Casino Gauntlet in the bank, but Kip Sabian stole his pen and then got scared by Pac and Claudio. This all would have worked better if Nigel had won the gauntlet. Hook beat Roderick Strong to retain the FTW Championship, had a show of respect following the bell, and then announced he would be officially retiring the FTW Championship, just 3 miles from where the title was born back in 1998. He handed the belt to a teary Taz in what was actually a remarkably sweet moment. The Young Bucks retained their tag team championships against the United Empire in a fantastic match that somehow blew away the expectations it had going in. Ospreay is just on another level from the rest of the AEW locker room, and he is raising the ships of Matt and Nick, but crucially, Kyle Fletcher, who is quickly becoming one of AEW's fastest rising stars. Their comeback from the second heat spot was superb. Double Styles Clash for a near fall, Hidden Blade and Stormbreaker for a near fall, Turnbuckle Brainbuster for a near fall, TK Driver and David Correos for a near fall. This was edge of your seat stuff, but it was Don Callis that was the team's undoing. Callis was great on commentary, not only putting over how good Fletcher is, but bragging about how he's brought Ospreay back into the faction, not knowing that this is spelling the end of Fletcher's time with him before they fully reunite United Empire. As his team were on top but unable to put the Bucks away, he handed Fletcher the screwdriver, but Ospreay reasoned with his friend that this was not the way to do things, and it led to Ospreay and Fletcher getting clocked with the title belts for a near fall and an EVP trigger for the win. The camera then beautifully framed Kyle literally between Callis and Ospreay. This was just fantastic. The conglomeration welcomed Rocky Romero into their group ahead of their trios match with the Learning Tree on Collision, and Prince Nana came out for a promo about how Swerve Strickland is doing. But despite his guy having a terrible, no good, very bad week where he lost the World Championship, his childhood home, and got beat by Hangman Page in a cage match, boy that escalated quickly, Nana was smiling and selling his coffee. And I thought that was odd, but I was getting worked as MVP came out to put over Swerve's accomplishments and asked why his manager was acting like this. Perhaps Swerve's losses weren't because of Swerve, but because of his representation. So he asked Nana to give Swerve his card because when he's back, he wants to talk to him about business.
You become a man of business.
I'm looking forward to it, Headmaster.
You will love business.
This was a very cool debut for MVP, and it made Swerve feel like a massive deal. It also means that we now know not only Swerve's next feud, but Bobby Lashley's first feud if he does come into AEW, because Swerve vs. Hurt Syndicate sounds pretty good to me. Mariah May beat Yuka Sakazaki in a fine little match with little heat, which is understandable as Yuka has not been built to feel like a credible challenger for May, and May won with a Storm Zero. This was your only women's match on the card, do better. May was about to attack Yuka after the match, but Willow Nightingale came down for the save. Alright, now I'm listening. Mina Shirakawa's music hit, which distracted Willow, allowing May to hit her and bail. May took this as a sign that Mina was on her side, but it didn't feel like that was her intentions. And while this was good, sadly it had TNA to the back vibes, as we did not get enough time to process this as we had to cut to a commercial break. And the main event saw Jon Moxley beat Darby Allin to earn a title shot against Bryan Danielson for WrestleDream. The match was awesome and really worked to the strengths of both guys. Moxley felt dangerous, and Darby felt dangerous, but, you know, with his own body recklessness. The crowd even chanted at one point, "You can't kill him!" But kill him he did, as Mox reversed a superplex into an avalanche Death Rider for the win. Bryan Danielson ran in and tried to choke out Moxley with a tie. I see what you did there. But the Blackpool Combat Club made the save. Private Party and Commando evened the odds, and BCC saved Mox from getting hit with a Psycho knee. Commander Party will face BCC for the Trios titles on Collision. Didn't we break the hand of Isaiah Cassidy last week? Danielson declared a thumb war and said that he would kick Moxley's effing head in. Delightful. It capped off a very good edition of Dynamite for in-ring work, which is what Grand Slams should feel like, and the cherry on top was MVP's teases. And it was worth your time to watch just for that Young Bucks tag match. Now go and watch Ollie Davis count down the top 10 most shocking revelations from the Mr. McMahon Netflix show by clicking the video on screen right now.